Good evening and welcome to the Self-Checkout Show. I am your host, Pastor Will. I am back with you on another Wednesday night. Beautiful day in the state of Illinois. I hope it's a beautiful day wherever you are. I am glad to have you guys joining me. Those of you that are joining by way of Facebook, YouTube Live, Periscope, Twitter, we want to say thank you. We appreciate each and every one of you. Of course, this is the show where we take an honest look at what's in our hearts, minds, and spirits. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have, as you have been told, an exclusive interview tonight with the one and only Mr. Frederick Collins, who is a mayoral candidate for the city of Chicago 2023. He will be running, of course, against the current mayor, which is Mayor Lori Lightfoot, and those others such as Paul Vallis, Willie Wilson, and there are several others who have already thrown their hats into the race. But Mr. Collins is here with us, and Mr. Collins fights for justice, safety, and order, extending beyond the badge he wears as a Chicago police officer. Mr. Collins is a man with a vision and a mission. His goal is not only to become Chicago's next mayor, but to improve public safety, economic conditions, and educational conditions, and the overall quality of life for the citizens of Chicago. And before we do get started, I do want to say that the views expressed tonight by Mr. Frederick Collins are those of his own and his campaign. They are not necessarily the views of myself, Willie Taylor Ministries, or the Self-Checkout Show. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce, it is indeed a pleasure to introduce to you 2023 mayoral candidate for the city of Chicago. This is Mr. Frederick Collins. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, and thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, man, it's an honor and a pleasure to have someone of your stature on tonight. Good evening to those of you that are watching. I see you, Charlotte. Hey, Charlotte Johnson. Hey, that's my mama right there. Good evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hey, guys, as you come in, please share and tag as many Chicago citizens. Majority of my viewers are from Chicago. So we definitely, if you're on Facebook or Twitter, go ahead and tag as many of your friends and family that live in Chicago as possible. We definitely want them to hear what Mr. Collins has to say tonight. And we are going to, Mr. Collins, if it's okay with you, we just want to jump right in. And before I do jump right in, I have read that you yourself were on the Chicago Police Department for some 29 years, I think it is.
I'm still currently serving as a Chicago police officer, and I already have 29 years and some months.
29 years. That is amazing. That is amazing. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
And with that being said, I do want to just go ahead and dive right in tonight. You being a Chicago police officer and running for mayor of the city of Chicago, what are your plans to combat crime and make people accountable?
Well, the first thing, a part of my plan is to make sure we enforce the laws that are on the books. The second thing is to make sure that we continue to reach out to the community and grow a relationship between the police and the community by first letting the community know that we come from the community. We are fathers, mothers, daughters, and sons of members of the community, church members of the community. Policemen don't just fall out of the sky and they don't make them in factories. We are indeed a part of the community. So when the press tries to pit us against one another, we have to reiterate that we are actually the community ourselves. And that's why we took this job, is to make it safer and improve the quality of life within our communities.
Okay. Yeah, I totally understand that. Now, we seem to have an uptick of underage individuals committing crimes as well in the city of Chicago. This is according to what the news is saying, what the statistics say. I myself don't live in the city of Chicago, so this is not, for those watching, this is not my endorsement because I don't even live in the city of Chicago. I cannot vote. But of course, we do watch the news every day. And you're a CPD, and according to what you just said, my next question is: will you, if elected mayor, will you hold underage youth who commit crimes and their parents accountable?
We most certainly will, but we won't stop just there. We're going to reach out to get them help. Parenting has fallen off in these last few generations. A lot of children won't discipline, they won't love, they won't respect, and they want guidance. And unfortunately, it's just not there. We have some parents who became young parents and a teenager themselves. And so, therefore, they never had the opportunity to fully be a teenager. They had to become a parent. And so, we have to deal with some of those social ills and social challenges that face us every day. But yes, we will hold those accountable. We can't have youth out here committing murders and not face consequences. But what we will do is continue to reach out and address those issues through our social programs, through our Big Brother and Big Sister programs, also utilizing one of the greatest treasures we have in our community, which is our churches and our non-for-profits. We understand that most of the time, human beings have to be reached through their soul. Can't always do it through their hearing. They have to be reached through their soul because something inside of them has to be addressed. And they need to feel that they're in a comfortable area to talk with somebody who can truly hear them, listen to them, and provide some guidance. And we know that churches have always been a place to go and find refuge and find a listening ear.
Absolutely. For those of you that are just tuning in, we are speaking with Mr. Frederick Collins, who is a 2023 mayoral candidate for the city of Chicago. And we want to thank you guys for tuning in. We do ask that you would share this broadcast tonight. Mr. Collins, according to your campaign website, you are for stop and frisk. Can you explain to our viewers tonight how you would implement such a controversial law enforcement tactic?
Well, first of all, I want to say stop and frisk is a case that was under Terry versus Ohio, and it went to court in 1968. In 1969, the U.S. Supreme Court, which is the highest court of the land, ruled that stop and frisk was not only necessary, but that it was constitutional. And based on what stop and frisk really is, stop and frisk is a short detainment by the police of a suspect about to either commit a crime or has committed a crime. And I'll tell you why it's such an important tool. Say, for instance, your house is being burglarized while you're at work. And as the police are driving down the street, they see somebody climbing out of the window rather than using the front door with a black ski mask on and a bag full of goodies. And it's in June. Well, it's certainly not Santa Claus. It's a burglar burglarizing your home.
Yeah.
The police would then do a stop and frisk. And what it is a detainment because there's suspicion to believe this person just broke in your house and is now trying to leave and escape. And so the police would stop and detain him. And as they stop and detain him, because he looks suspicious doing it, he's dressed as a burglar would be dressed. And when you ask him, what is he doing over here? Can't give you a complete answer, has no identification on him. And when you ask him, does he live there? He says, well, no, I don't live there, but a friend of mine said, well, what's the friend's name? And the police do a thorough check and find out, in fact, that's not a person that lives there at all. That's what stop and frisk does. It helps to capture those criminals either in the process of a crime or about to commit a crime.
On that same note, Mr. Collins, considering its use in other cities, do you feel that stop and frisk would be a controversial crime fighting tactic?
Everything we do is controversial in life, especially when you're in law enforcement. But is it a needed tool? Absolutely. Will it help improve the quality of life and the feeling of safety within the community? Absolutely. But here's the good news. We now have what's called body cameras. We now have vehicle cameras. And so when policemen do stops or detain someone in the process of a crime, all of it's videotaped. All of the questions, the reason for the suspicion, a person's demeanor, all of that's caught. Years ago, DUIs used to be questionable. A person would say, well, I wasn't really drunk, I was sleepy. But now with the use of body cameras, you can actually see they're inebriated, that they're highly drunk, that they have open alcohol in the car. And so I think there's more transparency and an improvement with the stop and frisk that will make it less questionable.
Thank you for answering that. And from one of our viewers tonight, if you will, please address the gun violence. What is your intake concerning that? There are too many of our young and old dying from senseless gun violence.
Well, mine is twofold. Number one, I'll repeat, we'll enforce the law. We'll hold those who commit gun violence accountable. We'll process them. But here's the other thing. This is where stop and frisk comes in again. You've seen time and time again around this country, and even in Chicago, where criminals are walking around with their guns out in broad daylight, up and down the street like it's the Wild West. They don't even have them anymore. They walk with them in their hands, swinging up and down the street or in their waistband. That has got to stop. The other thing we're going to do is I'm going to change the law in Chicago that we don't do any more I-bonds for violent criminals. They do it in Oak Park. They have no I-bonds when you do a traffic stop. You actually have to go before a judge before you're released. That's the same thing we're going to do. We're going to make it so that there are no I-bonds for those violent criminals, which means they'll be held in jail until the judge releases them.
All right, thank you for answering that as well. On the violence, also watching the news, of course, every day, we have also seen that there has been an uprising of violence in the city of Chicago on public transportation. So, Mr. Collins, how would you curb everyday violence on the CTA if you're elected mayor of Chicago?
Well, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to bring back those CTA units, those CTA police officers that work undercover as well as in marked cars and in uniform. But not only that, but we're going to also have officers who themselves not only patrol the CTA, but we're going to invest in making sure there are more cameras to offset those areas that are not well lit, that are not visible. That's what we want to see. The other thing is we're going to do away with the homeless that are in those subways and actually get them in the buildings where they can get social services, where they can get mental treatment. To me, it is inhumane to leave a citizen outside to sleep on the hard concrete. That is inhumane to me. And that really disturbs my heart because we can do so much better in 2022. This is not the 1900s or the 1800s. We certainly can put them in a safe place, number one, and get them the mental and medical treatment in which they need and give those a second chance in life with job training and so forth. We shouldn't have people sleeping in our subways or on our trains when we can help them.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and let's tackle or talk about the CPS, Chicago Public Schools. Can you explain to our viewers how you use or would use attendance officers to increase CPS attendance to 97%?
Well, first of all, enrollment in CPS is down more than 85%. We have at least 20 schools right off the bat that you can look at the top of the list that hold 1,200 students, but only 65 are enrolled in some of those schools. Only 100 are enrolled in some of those schools for a school that has 3 floors and should have at least 1,200 students in it. And the reason why we're missing those students is because a lot of the families have decided not to send their kids to public schools anymore. They don't feel safe. So they go to the suburbs or they go to private schools. The other half is they're on the street because they feel like their school is outdated. It's not modernized. We've got to do away with chalkboards and bring in smart boards. We don't need 6 or 7 books in a book bag anymore. We need to put those lessons on a laptop so the children can receive, even after class, some help. And that's one of the things I would bring about. But here's the most important thing. It's overdue for Chicago to have an elected school board. I would push my first few months in office to release certain powers and pay for a special election so that parents actually have a say-so in their child's education, and run a special election for an elected school board.
And the attendance officers, what would their primary job be?
Well, attendance officer's primary job is to make sure that if a child is out of school 1 or 2 days, to find out why that child is out of school. And then to make sure that a report is submitted to the school as well as to our school unit that we would have in place. Mm-hmm. And get that parent to find out why that child is actually out of school. Are they out of school because they're sick? Are they out of school because something happened in the family and maybe they need some help? But we would nip it in the bud of children being truant for months at a time, which is what's happening now. We have some children haven't been to school in a year or two, and they're just wandering the streets, either becoming a victim of crime or participating in crime. And so it's important to make sure that while school is in session, that these children are in class. And so that's the role that our attendance officers would play. And if there's a child who is a repeat absentee from school, then what we would do is bring in the social programs and hold that parent accountable and say, wait a minute, we're trying to reach out to you to get you some help. It's not enough to say, well, he walks out the door and you don't know where he's going to or what he's doing. You have a responsibility as a parent, and we're going to hold you responsible. And that would be bringing in social services, as well as if it becomes very serious, getting a hold of in front of a judge with DCFS to find out what we can do to put these children in a better living environment until mom and dad go through a program that better helps them.
Yeah, I think that is, our viewers are saying that's like the truant officers that I had when I was in grade school. I believe that's pretty much the same way as an attendance officer. So I think those are the same principles apply.
But we don't want to start off negative, so we wouldn't make it truant officers. We would make them attendance officers.
Attendance officers.
Remember, the whole thing about law enforcement and what I've done all my life as a public servant, as well as a community activist, is reaching out to people to give them a positive hand up. You know what I'm saying, in life. And that's so important. You don't want to start out negative. That's why we even have a program, and I've come up with a program and a strategy for those who deserve a second chance, who have served their time, paid their debt to society, and just gotten out of jail. We just can't let them wander the streets. We need to bring them in, embrace them, put them in a program, give them shelter, get them state IDs, job training, medical that they may need, or mental assistance that they may need. These things are so important because in society, we all can win. Teamwork makes the dream work.
And on the CPS issue, as mayor, how would you work with the CTU when they come to you to work out union issues?
Well, first of all, I am a child who grew up in the public school system, and I have the highest regard for our Chicago teachers. They do so much. They reach in their own pocket. We entrust them with the greatest treasure we have, which is our children in life. And they really go out their way to do what they can. They wouldn't have a problem with me because I understand what they do and the importance of what they're doing and helping to shape the future of our children. I don't think we would have any problems whatsoever. I would work with them closely, as well as with parents, which is one of the reasons why I want a parent-teacher conference board that would also have unions, teachers from the union, as well as parents from the communities to sit with and talk with and address their issues and concerns and work with them on.
And also, as mayor, how would you strictly enforce the city curfew laws? And what would be your strategy to hold those accountable who simply ignore curfew?
Well, first of all, we are going to enforce the curfew, and there will be no backtracking on that. If we pick up your child the first time, it simply will bring them home. We'll give you a phone call. We'll bring them home, make sure they're safe. We pick them up a second time. We'll bring them home, but there will be a citation. And what the citation will be is a warning with an offer for social services if needed. And that's what you want. If we pick them up a third time, then it definitely will go before a social agency such as DCFS and holding that parent accountable and bringing them before DCFS to work with them. If it continues to happen, then we're going to go before a judge and see if maybe these kids need to be put in a safer environment, or if it's just too much for mom to deal with as a single mother. And also what we want to do is link up with a church in the community. This, again, utilizing non-for-profits and churches within our community to help out. You know, when I was growing up, we had block clubs and we had the church, and the block club and the churches were a big help within the community. It certainly helped my family, other families. And so as mayor, I want to bring some of those things back that work. And so we would utilize non-for-profits and churches and other community groups and social groups to work with this issue. But we have to protect our children, and we have to make sure they're on the right road. But at the same time, there must be boundaries and guidelines.
Thank you for that. As I was reading and looking at your campaign website, you talk about property tax in Chicago. So tell us about the 15% property tax freeze that you are proposing.
Well, we know when the pandemic came by, it really hurt. Chicago was already one of the state of Illinois, in fact, is one of the biggest taxing states within the country. And in Chicago, you get taxed for everything from grocery bags to water, everything. Well, when the pandemic come, it put everybody back. It put everybody down. And so there needs to be something to help bring back the economy as well as give relief to the taxpayers. And so one of the things I'm going to do is wherever your property tax is at right now, I'm going to cut it in half by 50%. And then I'm going to freeze it for 15 years. That 15 years of savings will help to grow the economy. But not only that, but it will give relief to those who otherwise would be in foreclosure with the taxes that the way they are right now. Right now, the current administration under Lori Lightfoot has tied it to the economy, has tied it to the cost of living. That goes up 3 to 4% every year. No one can afford that. Every penny matters right now. And so what I'm going to do is bring some relief for the city of Chicago.
Okay, thank you for that. Just a minute ago, as you were speaking, you mentioned the pandemic. And I want to ask you, this is a two-part question. During the COVID pandemic, did you agree with Mayor Lightfoot to shut down churches? And secondly, would you as mayor do the same thing if Chicago was faced with another pandemic?
First of all, I would never shut down a church, a mosque, or anything else. I would never shut down any church or mosque or anything else. Church and state has to be separate. A person's religion and their belief has to be personable between them and their God. A right to worship is a constitutional right. It's not something somebody can just take away from you. I challenged her on that. I thought it was absolutely wrong. And then she fined some of the churches when they took the padlocks off. She put them right back on. No, I would not shut down the economy. I would not padlock churches and stop people from worshiping. And I wouldn't have closed the schools. What you do is you prepare. I would have had at least 2 to 3 nurses at every school. I would have had doctors in hospitals with a system in place. I would have made sure that we took every advantage of the money that was given out by the billions to make sure that the airways were clear in school and so forth. These were many things that could have been done that were done in other states. She refused it and cussed out the president when he offered his help. You don't do that. You don't take things personal when you're representing 3 million people. You do what's right for the 3 million people.
Thank you for answering that. Also, you, of course, being a CPD officer, the Chicago police has a no chase policy in place. Would you, as mayor, repeal that policy? And if so, why?
I would do it immediately. There are a number of policies that need to be repealed, especially that one, because it's foolish to think that you're telling criminals they can commit crimes, and if they run away, the police are not going to chase them. That's just foolish. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Okay. Also, being a 29-year veteran police officer, would you hold police officers accountable for misconduct and hold officers accountable who try to cover up other officers' misconduct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've spoken out about things in the police department before. No one has a right to violate anyone's constitutional right. I take that very seriously. I took this job to make sure that people's rights were protected. So absolutely, if we found an officer had done something that brought discredit to the citizens of Chicago and themselves and violated somebody's constitutional right, I'd fall on them like a ton of bricks.
Okay, and one of our viewers is saying that I'm assuming that during the pandemic, the schools did not have enough staff and they still don't now. Is there anything that you can say to our viewers that would satisfy them concerning the number of staff in the schools for the children?
Well, first of all, what we got to do is make sure we're competitive when hiring teachers, when bringing in staff members, and that means upping the pay. People have to be able to make a conscious living, and that means being able to take care of themselves while they try to service and take care of others. We've got to make sure we pay our staff everything from teachers' aides to the engineers to the cooks to the staff. That has to be taken care of, making it attractive to want to take the job in the first place. That will up the numbers of staff in which we need. And then just making sure that we make sure the quality of teachers that we bring about. And also having a mentoring program, that starts in high school for those who might want to be a teacher early on. When you talk to most teachers, this is a profession that they wanted to do ever since they were in high school or a little kid. Let's go ahead and put together associate programs within high school that teach them and lead them in that direction. The other thing is in making sure that everything from Head Start to the 12th grade, we teach multiple languages. And so it's going to be mandatory that English and Spanish is taught in every Chicago public school under my administration so that our children truly can compete, so that they can read, write, and speak Spanish and English.
Okay, and we thank you, Dr. Kermita Washington, for tuning in with us also. I think we hit this a few minutes ago, but how would you handle the union?
Well, let's first of all understand what unions do. Unions were the first to give minorities a chance to come into middle-class jobs. And so what we would do is we'd handle them with respect, number one, and do the things that are in the best interest of those looking to live the American dream, but as well behold them to what the taxpayers expect. But I am a union member, and I am very much pro-union. I don't have that. But I'm also respectful of the communities in which union members come from. Let's understand these teachers, these teacher aides, these union members, they all come from the community and they're taxpayers themselves and they want to contribute and give back. I think the problem has been is the past administrations just have no respect when it comes to unions. But let's keep in mind, majority of unions now are starting to be minorities. Minorities are getting a foothold now in unions. And it's an opportunity for African Americans and Latinos and others to have a chance at those good paying jobs.
Okay, I want to kind of go back to the police department for a moment. Chicago has never had a female police superintendent. If elected as mayor, would you be open to appointing one?
Well, actually, I have 3 on a short list of 7 that I would consider, that I've worked with, that I know have worked their way up from the bottom on up. And I think they would make great superintendents. But yeah, I have a list of 7 that I would consider for making my new superintendent under my administration. And on that list are 3 women.
Okay, awesome. There's another question here that asks, what about another second language like English for Arabic students?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got to understand, in order for our children to truly be able to compete globally, which is what we're talking about, is making Chicago the best educational system in the world. We've got to prepare our children by making sure they can speak multiple languages. And so that is so important. And I'm going to tell you why it's important. Because when you learn another person's language, you also start to learn their culture. And you all can develop a respect for one another's culture and be able to work better together and understand one another.
So in the next several months leading up to the election next year, we are going to hear from every candidate. Some of the candidates, I'm sure, along with the current Mayor Lori Lightfoot, are probably going to tell the Chicagoans many of the same things that you are sharing with us tonight. So, Mr. Collins, what separates your candidacy for mayor from the other contenders?
Well, first of all, every opportunity we've had to speak, none of the other candidates sound like me. They're not going to do stop and frisk. They're not going to involve in trying to push for an elected school board. They're just not going to do it because they're power. They're part of the political machine. And the political machine right now is on life support, and it's grasping for power. If you take a look at the last 3 elections, they've all been the lowest in 40 years. That's because the citizens and the voters have not seen somebody up there who truly represents them from the bottom up. That's the difference. I come from the bottom up. I want to represent and work for the citizens of Chicago. I'm not running to just govern the citizens of Chicago, but to work for them, to represent their will of what they need and what they want. The mayor is simply an employee of the citizens of Chicago, not some king or some type of grand pharaoh or something over everybody. But the mayor is supposed to be a public servant who takes that word seriously. Public servant, servant being the operative word, and work for the citizens of Chicago. The reason why I'm running for mayor isn't because the crime is high, but because this is my home. This is where I was born and raised. This is where I met my friends. This is where I got married at. This is where I raised my children at. Home means so much to me. Home is everything, and so does my community. That's why I'm running for mayor. Every other candidate that said they're running because they have a problem with the mayor. The mayor's not doing this, not doing that. Well, we all know that. But the reason why I'm running, what sets me apart from everybody else, this is my home. I value the diversity of our great city. And this is why I'm running, to protect it. Because crime is a cancer that is killing this city second by second.
And in closing, what would you, in addition to what you just said, what would you like to say to all those that are watching and that will watch this interview, and why they should vote for you?
Well, I would say this. I've been involved in community service through my church and various other groups, Operation Push, the NAACP, I served 4 times, was elected 4 times unanimously, the local school board council. I've always been involved in public service. It's my life's work. It's what I enjoy doing. But I would say I want to work for you. Those of you in Chicago, I want to work for you to make our city safe again, to make it fun again, and to improve the quality of life and build jobs and businesses. This is why I'm running for mayor of the city of Chicago, because we matter. It's all of us. We matter.
And lastly, Mr. Collins, how can voters take a look at your plan proposals? Do you have an office number, a website, email address? How can they view all of these things?
Well, you can start by going to my website, which is Collins for Chicago, FOR 2023.com. That's Collins for Chicago, FOR 2023.com. You can also call my campaign office, which the phone number is 773-739-8082. Once again, the campaign office number is 773-739-8082. And you can email us at info@collinsforchicago 2023.com. And please come and join us, stand with us. There are hundreds of thousands of us already out here working to push to make sure the power is put back into people's hands. We can beat the fifth floor.
Well, this has been a great opportunity. Thank you so much, Mr. Collins, for coming on to the Self-Checkout Show and sharing with us. We do hope that we did you some good. And those of you who are watching, again, we do want to thank you for viewing. We want you to definitely go to Mr. Collins' website, and you can view all of his plan proposals. Everything that he has shared with us tonight, you can see it on his website. So I am deeply honored, Mr. Collins, to have you on tonight. Thank you again for coming to talk with us tonight.
Thank you for having me on your show, and thank your listeners for taking time to listen to me.
No problem at all. Everybody else, hey, this is our last show until Wednesday, October 5th. We are taking a break. We will not be back live until Wednesday night, October 5th. We will be showing or airing rebroadcasts from past shows. Again, this is Mr. Frederick Collins, who is a mayoral candidate for the city of Chicago 2023. Please, 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 by all means, do check out his website. You can follow him on Facebook. You can follow him on Twitter. He's all over the place, everybody. He is definitely in the public eye. So I want to say thank you again, Mr. Collins. Thank you, my viewers and Chicagoans. We appreciate you for listening. When the time is right, get out and vote. I don't care. Just vote, 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 vote. That's the best thing you can do for yourself and your family and your city. Until Wednesday night, October 5th, I'm Pastor Will. This is the Self-Checkout Show, where we take an honest look at what's in our hearts, minds, and spirits. You all have a great night, and we'll see you back here Wednesday, October 5th.
God bless you.